I'll alert Fiona that there is a question from the crowd. Okay, so we have 12:15, so we'll get started just because it is, again, only 30 minutes. And thank you all for coming. I'm Joanne Kehoe. I work at eCampus Ontario right now as a program manager, but am normally found at McMaster University. And Lynn, I didn't realize you worked for Mac, so that's kind of interesting. We got to chat. I'm normally an instructional designer there, so. And it was actually another instructional designer who's here, Bobby Osborne, Roberta Osborne, as
Hello.
she's known in the participant window, who kind of was most kind of spurred this session on. So thanks for that, Bobby, and thank you, Fiona, for presenting today. Fiona is a customer success manager. Is that correct?
Yes.
At Crowdmark, and
right.
Also teaches math at University of Waterloo. So we're really happy that you took the time out to join us today. And I'll just hand things over to you. And again, if you have any questions for me, if you have any questions, just type them in the chat window, and I'll alert Fiona.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Joanne, and thank you guys for inviting us today. I'm really excited to share this platform with you. I've just recently joined the Crowdmark team. I've been a math lecturer for about 15 years, first at Laurier and for the last 13 years or so at Waterloo. And I found out about Crowdmark about 4 years ago and jumped on board and started using it and became a big proponent of it at Waterloo. And now it's really spread across the university. So I was pretty excited to join the Crowdmark team and share some of my, I guess, experiences with Crowdmark. So I'm happy to be sharing these with you guys today. So I'll just give you a quick background on what Crowdmark is. So you can see, can everyone see my page? I should make sure everyone can see my screen here. Joanne, do you want to just give me a, yeah.
All great.
We're good. Okay, good. So as you can see here, Crowdmark is a collaborative online grading and analytics platform. So what that means is we're enabling grading teams to grade assessments, so typically paper-based assessments that a lot of us have used in the past, but we're enabling instructors and their grading teams to be able to grade together online. So I'm going to show you a little bit about the problem that we feel like we're solving. I believe this is actually a University of Waterloo, a photo of sort of one of those marathon marking sessions of exams or midterms. So to me, those boxes on the shelf are a very familiar sight to me. They're in my office where students have not picked up their returned exams. We often sit in a room together and you know, I mark the question one and I do a few papers and I pass them on to someone else. And inevitably there's this sort of bottleneck of waiting for some papers to arrive for me to grade. We sit in that room for hours on end until the grading's done. Then we're tallying, totaling up the scores, hoping we don't make a mistake, and then dealing with the returning the papers to students, which is another issue in itself. So Crowdmark really started as a way to try to alleviate or find a new workflow for that also common situation. So here is sort of in a nutshell what Crowdmark is doing. So we're able to view the pages of the student work on our laptop, on our tablet, on our computer, on our home computer, on our office computer, and we are able to just tackle grading as it is convenient for us. We're able to grade a lot faster because of some of the features I'm going to show you, like being able to enable reusable comments, being able to quickly tally up the scores, being able to easily navigate. You know, as I said, if I'm grading all the question ones, with just a click of a button, it'll take me to the next question one for the following student. So it really does save a lot of the time and it takes the pain out of grading. So here's just a few of the improvements from the instructor's point of view, or as we call them in Crowdmark, we can call them the facilitator of an assessment. So you are most definitely going to save time grading. There's no question. To even simply deal with flipping of the pages. You're going to save quite a bit of time from the traditional grading workflow, as well as some of the grading tools that I talked about. So reusable comments, You can type in comments using LaTeX or Markdown. You can embed links, images. I mentioned this comment library, and I'll show that to you a little bit as well. The collaboration is key, that you can have a team of graders, your TAs, fellow instructors. If this were a large course, you guys could be grading simultaneously. You could even be on the same page of an assessment, where perhaps I'm grading question 1 that's at the top, and another instructor's grading question 2, which is maybe at the bottom of the page, and there's no issues with collision. We can actually do that simultaneously. We also have tools of automated matching, so matching the student information to the assessment, as well as automated multiple choice grading. So those are graded automatically if you want to include some multiple choice questions. It's also very simple to do regrades if a student asks for that, simply by looking up their assessment online. And if you feel a regrade is necessary, you can easily do that. The convenience factor is huge. You can grade from anywhere, anytime. So some people like to grade really late at night. Some like to do it first thing in the morning. And for me personally, I just like to work it into my regular day. So I'll do, an hour or 2 grading, and then I'll go on, check my email and do some other work projects. And I like being able to kind of jump back and forth and just add it into my regular work day. We also have some nice analytics on student performance. So you can take a look at things like statistics on, per question basis or on the entire assessment basis. Some pluses for students are, of course, they're going to get back their returned assessment faster. They don't have to necessarily wait for, the following week's tutorial. As soon as the grading is finished and the instructor decides they want to release the grades, it's just simply a click of a button. You'll see here this submit assignment. So we actually have 2 different workflows, and I'm going to try to quickly mention both of those to you. But one option is you can create homework assignments for students, and they're able to submit these just using their mobile phone. And I'll actually show you what the grading interface looks for that model. And then I will describe the slightly different setup for what we call an administered assessment, which would be your midterm final exam that would be, in a proctored setting. Another nice thing is privacy. You don't have to worry about a stack of assignments outside an office door or in a box with, identifying student information. Another nice plus in that regard is anonymous grading. So if you have a team of TAs, and maybe you don't want them to know specifically which student's paper they're grading, perhaps they're in their tutorial or something, graders will not be able to view student information. So they're not able to see whose paper it is that they're grading, which is quite nice. So I'm going to now jump to, I'm going to show you our platform itself. So forgive me while I just sort of hop around here. So hopefully you can all see that. I believe I shared my desktop, so we should be looking at the just the Crowdmark main sign-in page here. So I'm going to sign in, and you'll see I've got my Waterloo stuff still in there. If you were a Crowdmark customer and we were integrated with your LMS, so perhaps you use Brightspace or Blackboard or Canvas or Moodle, we will integrate with that system so that you can actually authenticate through that LMS. The nice thing there is we can import your student rosters, we can export your class grades right back into your LMS. So here's my main sort of dashboard for my Crowdmark courses. So it's organized by course, and I can create a new course. I created one called IDIG. Is that how we say it? I hope so. IDIG demo. So I have a couple that are set up here just because we're a little short on time. And I have one of each type. So this is a sample test. So this would be an administered assessment. So the proctored kind of situation. And then here's one that's an assigned assessment. So homework assignment. So I'm going to jump into the assignment first to show you the grading interface. And then I'll talk a little bit about the workflow of setting up an administered. The grading interface is basically the same for both. It's just the setup from the instructor's point of view. I'm going to pause for 1 second in case there are any questions. Joanne, are we okay?
I'll just ask everyone, does anyone have a question they want to pose? I think we're good.
Okay, good. Sometimes I get talking, my students tell me, and I just like, I get excited and I talk really fast. So I apologize if I'm doing that.
Just one quick question, if I could, Fiona. Just wondering, simple, how do you get the assignments into this? Is it scanned, so you run them all through a massive scanner, or how do you go about that?
So for the administered, like the tests,
yeah,
that would be, we're scanning them in, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I will talk about that, I promise. For the assigned, we're just sending out an email saying to students, here's the assignment. Here are the assignment questions, and each student is responsible for uploading their own work, whether they use a scanner. Many students just take a picture with their phone. We accept JPEG or PDF. So the student there is responsible for getting their work into Crowdmark.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Good question. Okay, so I've hopped into this math assignment here, and I'm gonna just show you the grading interface first. So my assignment had 2 questions in it, and I'm going to go into Q1 just to see what's happening here. So we can see this is some student work, and this was actually uploaded with a phone. I just took a photo of the work and uploaded it on behalf of this student. You can see over at the left here these smaller thumbnails that would show me the entire assignment if I wanted to scroll through. It's divided into these 2 questions. And you can see a few tools here. So I could choose just the drawing tool if I wanted to sort of circle something. If I was using a tablet and I wanted to just write on this with a stylus, similar to kind of a previous workflow, I can do that. I can add check marks, X's, question marks, and there are shortcut keys for all these as well. I can highlight some student work. And of course, I can remove any of those annotations. The one that I use a lot is this comment library. So you can see this sort of book here that I've clicked. I added a couple of things in advance. I set up basically a rubric for my grading team. So this is something that I can do in advance if I'm the facilitator. If I would like my graders to stick to a very specific marking scheme, I can do that. This is a factoring question. So this question was out of, actually it's out of 5. 4 would have made more sense. But I'm going to add my comment here, click that I would like to share it with my grading team, and I can even assign specific points to that comment. So the nice thing is I can reuse this again and again. So in this situation, I might give 2 marks here, and I'm just dragging it in for correctly factored. And you'll notice what happened is the grading automatically, I didn't push 2 there, I just dragged in the comment, and that was automatically reflected that I wanted to add 2 points for correctly factored. And then maybe I want to add in some more for roots, and it's going to automatically adjust the score. And as I said, the nice thing here is I'm on Q1. I just want to focus on Q1 because I'm in the zone. So at this button at the bottom here, I can take me right to the next ungraded. Actually, enter is a shortcut key for that as well, but I'll just show you that button. So here's another student's work. Okay, great, it's correctly factored. I don't have to use this rubric, I'm just showing this to you here. If I wanted to write a brand new comment and just say, great job with no points allocated, that's absolutely fine. I can save that comment in there as well. That comment, again, will be remembered so that I can reuse it if I like. Another nice thing about the comment library, let me go into it again here. Let's say I decide, oh, this doesn't quite fit with my marking scheme, correctly factored. I said it was worth 2 marks, but I think that's actually more like 3. That should get 3 points. So I went into my comment library for this one question. It's telling me I've used that particular comment twice on 2 different assessments. I save it, and it warns me that I'm about to update 2 instances of this comment, and that's exactly what I do want to do. I don't want to have to go back and change it on every single paper, so Crowdmark's going to automatically adjust that for me on those, I guess, 2 particular papers where I did that. So there's the correctly factored, now has a point score of 3. Are there any questions?
There is a question actually. Wondering whether Crowdmark can be linked to the LMS assignment Dropbox so students can submit to only one spot. Is that possible?
So Depending on which LMS it is, some have you authenticate into the LMS, and then there's, I guess it's called a widget within the LMS. So it'll say Crowdmark, and that'll bring you from the LMS into Crowdmark, but you would do the actual submission through Crowdmark. So whether you access Crowdmark through your LMS, or you go to our page and authenticate through your LMS, they're all a tiny bit different depending on which LMS you're using. And you can follow up with me after that, and I can double check for the particular LMS. But the actual submission process, it is happening within Crowdmark.
Okay.
Yeah. A few other features here. It's kind of covering with my little box here, but you see this overview grid. This gives you a nice view of the progress of the grading. The purple outline here tells me the question that I'm on. I'm on Q1 and booklet 1. Now, in this case, you can actually see the student information. Now, that's because I am the creator of this assessment. I am the facilitator. If I was looking at this as a grader, and that's a particular role in Crowdmark, so if I'm a TA, they would just see the number 1. They wouldn't see this student's email here. So this just gives a nice kind of overview of how the grading is going so far. I can actually navigate to a different question if I want to go look at Q2 for student 4. It will actually bring me right to that student's paper. So it's another way of navigating. Of course, you can also navigate through booklets using the next ungraded. I can switch questions easily and move around in the grading interface in that way. Another nice thing I can do is filter evaluations. And I can filter by question, by team members. It's just me, lonely me here today, but I can filter by score, and I can filter by tags. So I haven't added any tags here, but I'll go back to my grading interface. You can see this button tag, and you can really, it's completely up to you how you would like to tag a question. But if it's just something that you want to come back to a little later, maybe it's something you'd like to point out to the instructor. If you're a grader, maybe you think there's evidence of cheating, and so you add a little cheat tag. The instructor will really easily be able to come in, filter evaluations by that cheat tag, and be brought to all of the assessments that have been tagged in that particular way. Okay, I'm looking at the time here. I've got 10 more minutes. So I want to jump back to, unless there's any questions right here, but I can show you the grading interface for the administered, but I do want to quickly show you that, that workflow. So here I have a sample test, so an administered assessment, and I have some papers uploaded there already. Perhaps what I'll do here though is actually show you the creation process. So to create a new assessment, let's just call this test 2, naming my new assessment. So here's where I can decide which type I would like. So the one we looked at previously was the assigned. I'm going to choose an administered here. So this is the one that is proctored in person. These assessments will be printed out and then scanned and uploaded to Crowdmark once they're completed. Some features that we have here, multiple choice. So I'm going to tick that off. Let's say I do want to include some multiple choice questions. They wouldn't all have to be, but they could be if you wanted to. I would also generally enable automated matching. So this is where we're going to match a student to their paper after the exams are uploaded. So students are going to have a space to write their name and student ID number on the cover page, and Crowdmark is going to be able to match the student to their work after the scanned assessments have been uploaded. This is going to be quite similar to your regular workflow. You're going to create your exam or your midterm however you normally would, and then just drop your assessment in here. Sorry, I was hoping this would all be nice and ready for you. Let me throw something in here. There's a sample test. So my sample test, the cover page is just fairly plain and ordinary. Oh boy, what have I done here? Sorry, guys. I've created this assessment in, I believe I did it in Word, and I've got a mishmash of a few different kinds of topics in here, but that's what my sample test looks like. I'm going to upload it to Crowdmark. And the next thing I need to do is tell Crowdmark how many students are going to be writing. So in this step here, you can see what has happened to that assessment. A few things have changed. My cover page, which was plain and sort of ordinary, we've got this box placed on here. So this is because I selected the automated matching. So there's going to be a place for students to fill in their identifying information. The other thing I'm just quickly looking at is noticing these QR codes. So Crowdmark has stamped these QR codes on each page. Now that is very important because that's going to allow us to identify a particular booklet and a particular page of that booklet. The nice thing is when you go to scan in your exams, it really doesn't matter what order you scan them in because Crowdmark is going to know exactly which booklet, which page it is by the QR code. Another thing Crowdmark did here is it added this multiple choice page because I selected that option. So we can accommodate up to 40 multiple choice questions if you would like to include some of those in your paper. So I'm going to move on to next. And here's where I can add some labels to my questions. Perhaps I want to move Q2 up into this region, and I want to change the maximum number of points allocated, and so on. I'm going to jump ahead for now and assume it looks okay. And here's where I'm going to add in my list of student email addresses. So I have a few fake ones here. Now I'm copying and pasting. If we're integrated with your LMS, there's a little button down here that says import class list from whatever, Canvas, Brightspace, what have you. So I wouldn't need to actually paste those guys in. So I just want to show you this step. So what Crowdmark's doing is generating all of my student booklets. So you're not going to be photocopying anymore. You're going to be printing this PDF. So let me just show you what that looks like. So my sample test, you can see there are 12 booklets here. And if I look at, there's 96 pages in total. So I have booklet 1, this is page 1 of 8. I'll scroll way down here. There's booklet 2, that's page 7 of 8. So I'm going to print this large document. I'm going to choose what's called subset stapling, where it's going to put a staple in every, I guess, 8 pages or 4 if I chose double-sided. And then I'm just going to administer my test as usual. It doesn't matter which student gets which paper, they're going to identify their paper using the information on the cover page. The nice thing is in the grading, the cover page doesn't appear. So the cover page is used to match assessments. That's a separate workflow from the actual grading. So that's the process for setting up your administered assessment. Of course, it's reminding me that I need to put in my answer key because I did include a multiple choice question. The other nice features here are I can invite team members to join me in the grading, and I can invite them in as various roles. The printer uploader, so some universities that have started to use Crowdmark quite extensively have their print shop, people working in their print shop do the uploading. And if you're an uploader, you can basically upload the exams, but you have no access to grading at all. So a few other things just quickly here. The results page is where I would send grades to students, export grades as a CSV. I would also have the option to export the grades to my LMS here as well. I haven't done any grading here, but there would be a nice histogram here of the results by question as well as by total. One last thing, I know I've got 5 minutes here, but this is a very nice feature, sessions. So with sessions, actually I'm going to jump back into this guy because I have some stuff here. For sessions, if you have students writing with accessibility, or perhaps this is an online exam and you have students writing at different exam centers, perhaps in different locations, you can add a session here, and maybe it has a different time and a different location, and you can choose to add students writing it in these different locations. So I created one with the student Emmy Noether is writing in accessibility services, and I've invited a proctor, and that would probably be somebody working at accessibility that is going to be proctoring that exam. And that's a particular role where, again, they are not doing any grading. They are going to download and print off booklets, administer the exam, and then scan the exam back up into Crowdmark. And again, the really nice thing here is instead of waiting, a few days, which often was the case at Waterloo before we started using this, waiting a few days to get that paper from accessibility, and it was a student writing with accessibility. Here, Accessibility Office is just uploading the completed booklets, and it's going in with the rest of the papers for that course, and you just grade it as you would the rest of the courses, not as the rest of the pages, not being aware of where that particular exam has come from. I can see as the facilitator, everything's successful here. That booklet has been successfully uploaded. So I can actually jump back into this course and do some of the grading again. So I'm back in the grading interface. I know I have like 3 minutes, so I'm going to be quiet here. I've just showed you can add links, you can add diagrams. I'm gonna stop right now. Questions, please.
Okay, yeah, and if you can stay a little bit longer.
Of course I can, I'm happy to. Yeah.
Anyone else, we just want to make the 12:45 cutoff time for people who do have to leave. But a couple questions came in privately, just about one, using LaTeX and HTML in comments.
Yes, yep, absolutely. So I guess I didn't use any of those. That's not like me at all, but yes, we can, it supports Markdown. So you can use, so Markdown would support, things like I want to write x squared plus 2 or something like that, the same way you would in LaTeX. It also supports, oh my gosh, Dustin, jump in, the one for chemistry. Is it called Markdown?
LaTeX, I think, but Markdown, we have the links here that you can see. And if you scroll down, you can also put in images, so you can pull down graphs or
Great.
I often, for my students, take graphs of work that they previously submitted and then put it in there, or take graphs from the internet. You can link to things like a course syllabus, American Mathematical Association, really anything on the internet. And it's really good formative feedback to throw in along with your comments and stylus and mouse notations.
That's great. The other question was around privacy and how that's handled.
So we do not own any of the work here. Crowdmark does not own any of the work. It remains, this is all the property of the institution. All of the data is stored on Amazon Web Servers in Montreal. So it's stored in Canada, which is usually an important question for Canadian institutions to know that it is stored here in Canada, but we retain no ownership of the students' work at all.
Mm-hmm. And can any of the content that students upload be used by Crowdmark or third parties? Is there any kind of...
No.
And just would students have the option of not using Crowdmark if they wanted to just submit? Was it required? Have you ever come across that, I guess?
Yeah, I feel like that came up a lot. Like we would put things in the course syllabus, and I don't think anyone ever use that option, but we said, if you don't want to use Crowdmark, then you can, we just wouldn't include you in the class list and you can submit the regular way. I'm not aware of any student that chose that option, but of course you could implement that in your classes.
Okay. Yeah, another question coming in, just about administration of the assessments, if they are stapled together. Does this mean the instructor has to remove the staples before scanning? And
so
I guess that does.
Yeah, I learned about this from the scanning folks, but they have this, it's basically like a guillotine, which is this, this is pretty standard stuff for them, but they basically just slice on a diagonal the corners of all the assessments. So if you actually notice, so we always recommend you print double-sided for the administered assessment, because if I had a blank page on the opposite side, it would not have a QR code. What if a student, writes some extra work there and we wouldn't be able to capture it? So we recommended double-sided printing and just leave lots of space for students to write their solutions. But if you notice the QR codes are alternating every other side, it's so that when I do that chop, we're actually chopping on, this side here where the staple is, and that's gonna line up with sort of the mirror image here. But it's actually they just grab a whole stack of them and they just chop. I mean, if you don't have that, you can use the scissors basically to just grab a whole bunch of them and chop off that diagonal corner. That's what they do in the scan chops. Good question.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to ask a question through the microphone, I don't have to pass it on for you, please.
That's true.
Feel free.
I've got a quick question
Yeah.
for you, Fiona. Just wondering what schools have been, I'm not talking about the university names, but the actual schools within the university have been early adopters of this. So you've mentioned you're in math, but I'm wondering, what other applications have you seen?
So chemistry, biology, I've even had fine arts, psychology, the big ones to jump on at the beginning are math, science, engineering, physics, but there's really no limit at all to how you could, to what's happening. Even this exam that I've written, it really doesn't matter what the content is, right? Even music, I've spoke to someone in music lately that wants to be able to use this for their assessments. You could absolutely be grading history papers, English papers. It's really starting to spread. A lot of the time, the early adopters, as we said, tend to be in the sort of STEM fields, but there's really no reason it can't be used in any discipline.
So I used it in public relations management undergraduate program that I teach in, and it's a lot of writing and case studies, and it's been wonderful for that. Our use in Canada, though, we serve just over 17% of the full-time undergraduate population across Canada. In Ontario, we serve 27.4, I believe, at last count.
And in terms of implementing it, maybe you can just give me an idea of what you found was the biggest challenge, or what required the most thinking through.
Yeah, that's a great question. For me personally, when I heard about this, it was the administrative piece. Like, these QR codes tend to freak people out a little bit. How sometimes if it's just one instructor using it, is my department going to have to do the printing and scanning? Sometimes that's a hurdle for people to get over, or just not completely understanding, what these QR codes are all about. So sometimes that's a hurdle for people. Generally, people grading, once someone else has set it up for them, they're quite happy to join the grading team. And the grading tools are a hit. People love them. There's no question. It's faster. Instructors, TAs, they're very happy to use this. I think the biggest hurdle is the person that's setting it up, right? Just because it might be a little bit unfamiliar to the typical way that they are setting up their assessment, right? Where they've got the PDF, they send it to the printer, make 1,000 copies, and we're off. Did I show you the upload page? I just go ahead and ask another question. I just want to show you that page. This is the upload is going to upload the booklets. The nice thing here is you can see if any booklets were incomplete, if you're missing any pages. You don't have to wait until you hand back the papers and then a student says, oh, I wrote the exam, I was there. You're going to see if any pages are missing as soon as the upload happens, which is kind of nice.
I just have two final questions. One, just about the uploading of grades. Obviously, the final grade would be uploaded directly if we have Brightspace here at Conestoga College, and I'm assuming the final grade would be uploaded right away. But what about if there's a rubric that's in the LMS? Is there any way to kind of interface with a rubric to update the scores, or would it only be final grades on an assignment?
That's a good question. The export grades as CSV, we can see a by question score, and the export multiple choice results, I can see what each student selected in the multiple choice options, like how many chose, A, B, C, and D. As far as associating with a rubric and the LMS, we have not built that particular feature yet. So what you would get is a breakdown of per question. Generally, the one that goes to the LMS is simply the final grade on that particular assessment, but you can export the grades as your own CSV and import, and you get a little more of a breakdown there. But as far as the rubric specific items, we have not come across that yet. That doesn't mean it can't be done.
Yeah, I imagine the majority application for this tool would be looking at like short answer questions like these, where you're giving a quick score, as opposed to like a long answer, where you're giving using a rubric to assess the writing so much. But I was just curious to see, because one of the issues with rubrics and LMSs is that a lot of times they just have to be manually entered individually. There's no way to batch upload those. So I was curious. And just the last question, just about the pricing structure. Is there anything you can tell us about? Is it done on a per school basis? Is it done on a per use basis? How does it work generally?
Yeah, so the pricing that we have is $3.25 per student per course, paid by the institution. So generally, we'll often start with a pilot where a few courses want to try it for their courses with their grading team. And then we have a $7.25 per student, which is an unlimited subscription. So students, that would be for the whole year. So they could use it in as many courses as they like throughout the whole year. That's $7.25 for unlimited use by a student.
Is that all students in the institution, I'm assuming, or just the students that are using the tool, right, in the courses?
Yeah, so you would decide, you know, kind of guesstimate your enrollment if you want to use it for, you know, chemistry in first year, how many students do you have, kind of thing. You would pay for kind of your expected use.
Yep. So an example would be like a faculty of science. If they have a large engineering cohort, then they know that the students are going to be taking first year math, physics, chemistry, other courses. So instead of having to pay separately for all of those courses, it would be one flat fee of $7.25 for those students for all of those courses. So typically we find when it starts off, it's with the faculties of science or engineering or departments of engineering with their multiple programs within.
Yeah, I can see how this would be a really useful application and quite easy to use, especially saving all the repetition and the manual work that goes into marking paper-based tests.
Right.
Thank you for the demo.
You're very welcome.
Yes, thank you very much, Fiona.
You're welcome, Roberta. Thanks for letting everyone know about us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Fiona, and everyone for coming. And I guess what we'll do is send a follow-up note to everyone who was in attendance today, who registered, just with your contact information. Would that be okay, or is there someone?
Great. That's great, Joanne. And if anyone wants, I could invite you to these assessments. If you want to play around with the grading, I'd be happy to do that. So if you want to mention that to Joanne, or Joanne, if you want to send me a list of people who are interested, I'd be happy to add you to this, and you can just play around. I won't charge you any money, I promise. It's just for you to play around if you want to. I know this was pretty quick, but if you want to take a second look at it, I'd be happy to add you.
Okay, so what I'll do is just send around your email, and if people are interested in that, they can ask.
Yeah, that works.
That's great. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for the first IDIG webinar. And yeah, just a reminder that we're having another one next month with integrating OER into course designs with Jenny Heyman, who's not here any longer, and Maureen Glynn from Ryerson, who Maureen was here earlier. I don't know if she still is, but so thank you all. Thank you very much for joining us on this nice summer day on a webinar. Yeah.
Have a great day, everyone. Thanks a lot for having us.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Bye.